Solomon couldn't take it anymore. For 3 months straight, he had been waking up on the cold floor at exactly 1 a.m., his body aching, his mind fractured by what he witnessed night after night. His wife, Bala, lying in their matrimonial bed, her body responding to invisible touches, her lips whispering words he couldn't understand, her face flushed with a pleasure he could no longer give her. That morning, as dawn broke over Lagos, Solomon sat at the edge of their bed, watching Bala sleep peacefully. She looked so innocent, so beautiful, like the woman he had fallen in love with 3 years ago. But appearances, he had learned, could be devastatingly deceptive. "Bala," he said softly, shaking her awake. "We need to talk." She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. For a brief moment, he saw something in her gaze, a distant look, as if she was returning from somewhere far away. Then she smiled at him, that warm smile that used to make his heart race. "Good morning, my love," she said, reaching for his hand. He pulled away. "Don't. Just don't." The smile faded from her face. "Solomon, what's wrong? What's wrong?" His voice rose, years of frustration finally breaking through. "What's wrong is that I'm losing my mind, Bala. Every single night, I watch another man, or whatever he is, take what belongs to me. I watch you enjoy it. I watch you smile in your sleep like you're the happiest woman alive. And when you wake up, you act like nothing happened." Tears spilled down Bala's cheeks. "I don't know what you're talking about. I swear, Solomon, I don't remember anything. When I sleep, I just dream. Dream." Solomon laughed bitterly. "Is that what you call it? Tell me, Bala, what do you dream about?" She hesitated, her fingers twisting the bedsheet. I dream of a garden. White flowers everywhere. And there's a man." "A man," Solomon repeated, his voice hollow. "Of course there's a man. But it's just a dream." Bala insisted, grabbing his arm. "Solomon, please, you have to believe me. I would never cheat on you. I love you." He looked into her eyes, searching for the truth. Part of him wanted to believe her, wanted to wrap his arms around her and forget everything he had seen. But the rational part of his mind, the part that had been educated in England, that had studied engineering and believed only in what could be proven, that part couldn't accept this madness. "I'm going to stay with Cunny for a while," he said quietly, standing up. "I need space to think." "No, Solomon, please." Bala jumped out of bed, clutching his shirt. "Don't leave me. We can fix this. We can pray, we can see a pastor, we can." "We've tried prayer," he shouted, his composure finally cracking. "We've been to 3 different churches. We've fasted, we've prayed, we've done everything. And still, every night at 1 a.m., you're in the arms of someone I can't see, can't fight, can't even understand." The room fell silent except for Bala's quiet sobbing. Solomon felt his heart breaking, but he couldn't stay. Not anymore. Not when he felt like a stranger in his own marriage, a guest in his own bed. "I'll come back for my things later," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Maybe some distance will help us both think clearly." As he walked toward the door, Bala collapsed on the floor, her cries echoing through the empty apartment. "Please, Solomon. Don't abandon me. I need you." But he kept walking, his vision blurred by tears he refused to let fall. He didn't see the shadow that darkened their bedroom window, didn't hear the whisper that curled through the air like smoke. Finally. "Now she is truly mine alone." By noon, Solomon had packed a small bag and moved into Cunny's 1-bedroom apartment in Surulere. His friend had been understanding, offering him the couch and a beer without asking too many questions. But that evening, as they sat watching football, Cunny finally spoke. "You want to tell me what really happened?" or should I keep guessing? Solomon took a long drink before answering. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me. I've lived in Lagos long enough to know that not everything can be explained by science. So Solomon told him everything. The nightly displacement from the bed, the invisible presence, the whispers, the way Bala moved in her sleep, the scent of ocean breeze that filled their room at 1 a.m. He spoke until his voice was hoarse, until the beer bottle was empty, until there was nothing left to say. Kani was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, My guy, this thing pass ordinary prayer. You need serious help. The kind that comes from people who understand these matters. I don't believe in all that juju nonsense, Solomon protested weakly. You don't have to believe in it for it to affect you, Kani replied, his face serious. Listen, my uncle knows someone. A woman. They say she can see things, break things that ordinary pastors can't touch. Her name is Mrs. Adhithi. Solomon remembered hearing that name before, but he couldn't place where. You think she can help? I think at this point, you don't have anything to lose by trying. That night, alone on Kani's couch, Solomon couldn't sleep. He kept checking his phone, hoping for a message from Bala. Nothing came. At exactly 1 a.m., he felt a sudden chill run down his spine, and he knew, somehow he knew, that in their apartment across town, the spiritual husband had come again. And this time, there was no one there to witness it, no one to remind Bala that she belonged to someone else. He closed his eyes and whispered a prayer he didn't even believe in anymore. God, if you're listening, please protect my wife. Even if she can't be mine, please don't let her be lost. But in the darkness of the night, in an apartment where a woman slept alone, a deeper darkness gathered. The spiritual husband stood beside Bala's bed, his form more solid than it had ever been before. Without Solomon's presence, without the resistance of another man's claim, the barrier between the physical and spiritual realm grew thinner. The spiritual husband smiled, running his invisible fingers through Bala's hair. At last, he whispered, no more interruptions. No more sharing. You are mine completely now, my eternal bride. 3 days had passed since Solomon left, and Bala felt like she was losing her mind. She went to work, smiled at her colleagues, and pretended everything was fine. But at night, when she returned to their empty apartment, the weight of loneliness crushed her. She had called Solomon 17 times. He hadn't answered once. On the 4th morning, she woke up with a strange sensation, a fullness in her belly that hadn't been there before. She rushed to the bathroom and stared at herself in the mirror. Her stomach looked slightly swollen, and her breasts felt tender. Her heart raced with a mixture of hope and fear. Could I be pregnant? She whispered to her reflection. She had been hoping for a child for 2 years now, praying every month, crying every time her period came. Could it finally be happening? She immediately called her doctor and scheduled an appointment for that afternoon. At work, she could barely concentrate. Her colleague, a kind older woman named Patience, noticed her distraction. Bala, are you all right? You look pale. I'm fine, Bala lied, forcing a smile. Just tired. But Patience wasn't convinced. She had worked with Bala long enough to know when something was wrong. After lunch, she pulled Bala aside into an empty conference room. Look, I don't mean to pry, but I've noticed you've been different lately. And I heard about what happened with Tossin, how she tried to sabotage you and ended up getting fired instead. Patience paused, studying Bala's face carefully. There's something about you, child. Something that follows you. I've seen it before many years ago, with my own sister. Bala's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Patience lowered her voice. My sister was just like you. Beautiful, kind, intelligent. But she could never keep a man. Every relationship ended in disaster. Then she got married, and her husband started complaining about the same things, waking up on the floor, hearing voices, feeling like someone else was in the bed with them. What happened to her? Bola asked, her voice barely audible. Patience's eyes filled with sadness. She died during childbirth. The baby too. The doctors couldn't explain it. Everything had been fine, and then suddenly, during delivery, she started screaming about a man in the room, a man no one else could see. She kept saying, "He's taking my baby. He's taking our baby back." The room spun around Bola. She gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. No, that can't. I'm not like that. I'm just... You need help, Bola, Patience said firmly, gripping her shoulders. Real help. Not just prayers from pastors who don't understand these things. You need someone who knows about spiritual marriages, about covenants that were made before you were even born. How do you know about that? Bola whispered, tears streaming down her face. Because my sister told me everything before she died. About how our mother had made a deal with a river goddess when she was barren. About how the goddess gave her a child, but that child belonged to the river. Every daughter born from that covenant comes with a spiritual husband, a guardian who protects them but also enslaves them. Bola collapsed into a chair, her whole body shaking. My mother. Madame Golden. She was barren for 14 years. She told me once that an old woman came to her, told her that her prayers had been answered, but she never explained what it meant. Patience nodded grimly. They never do. The women who make these covenants often don't understand the price until it's too late. By then, the contract is sealed, and it passes down through the bloodline. So what do I do? Bola asked desperately. Solomon has left me. Every night, I feel something with me, but I can't control it. And now I think I might be pregnant, but I don't even know if the child is my husband's or... She couldn't finish the sentence. The thought was too horrifying. Patience pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. There's a woman. Her name is Mrs. Adhethi. She works in HR at a company across town, but that's just her day job. At night, she helps people with problems like yours. She helped my cousin once, saved her marriage. Let me call her for you. That afternoon, instead of going to her doctor's appointment, Bola found herself in a small, quiet office in Ikeja. Mrs. Adhethi was nothing like she expected. A calm, middle-aged woman with intelligent eyes and a gentle smile. She didn't look like a spiritual warrior or a witch doctor. She looked like someone's favorite aunt. Sit down, Bola, Mrs. Adhethi said, gesturing to a chair opposite her desk. Patience told me a little about your situation, but I want to hear it from you. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. So Bola told her everything. About her mother's barrenness, about the old woman who appeared to Madame Golden, about the strange dreams she had as a child, about the shadow that protected her, about the boys who ran away, about the wedding dream, about Solomon waking up on the floor, about the nightly visitations. She spoke for over an hour, and Mrs. Adhethi listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a pad of paper. When Bola finally finished, exhausted and emotionally drained, Mrs. Adhethi put down her pen and looked at her with a mixture of compassion and concern. You are carrying a child, she said simply. Bola's hand flew to her stomach. How do you know? I haven't even taken a test yet. I can see it. But Bola, you need to understand something very important. Mrs. Adhethi leaned forward, her expression grave. The child you're carrying is not your husband's. The words hit Bola like a physical blow. No, that's impossible. Solomon and we've been trying for 2 years. I know. And the spiritual husband made sure you couldn't conceive with your earthly husband. He was waiting for the right moment, waiting until the bond between you and Solomon weakened enough for him to claim you completely. Mrs. Adhethe's voice was gentle but firm. The child in your womb was conceived in the spirit realm. It belongs to him. Bola felt the room closing in on her. What happens if I keep it? If you carry this child to term, it will bind you to the spiritual husband forever. The covenant will be sealed in blood, and you will never be free. Your earthly marriage will be destroyed, and eventually, like so many women before you, you will be pulled completely into the spirit realm. You mean I'll die? Bola whispered. Mrs. Adhethe didn't answer directly. There are worse things than death, child. There is a living death, where your body walks the earth but your spirit is trapped elsewhere. I've seen it happen. Then what do I do? Bola's voice cracked with desperation. How do I get free? Mrs. Adhethe was quiet for a long moment, her fingers steepled under her chin. There is a way, but it's dangerous. We would have to confront the spiritual husband directly, break the covenant at its source. It would require going back to where it all began, to the place where your mother made the original deal. You mean the lagoon, Bola said, remembering her mother's story. Yes. But Bola, you must understand, if we do this, the spiritual husband will fight back. He won't let you go easily. He's protected you, provided for you, removed every obstacle from your path. In his own way, he loves you. And that makes him more dangerous than any demon or evil spirit. I don't care, Bola said, her voice hardening with determination. I want my life back. I want my husband back. I want to be free. Mrs. Adhethe studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well. But we'll need your husband there too. The spiritual husband's claim is strongest when you're alone. If Solomon stands with you, if he fights for you, it might give us the edge we need. He won't come, Bola said miserably. He won't even answer my calls. Then make him understand, Mrs. Adhethe said firmly. Tell him everything I told you. Tell him that if he loves you, if he truly wants to save your marriage, he needs to fight for you. Not with his fists or his education, but with his faith and his commitment. That's the only weapon that can defeat a spiritual husband, the unwavering love of an earthly one. As Bola left Mrs. Adhethe's office, the sun was setting over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. She clutched her phone in her hand, staring at Solomon's number. She had to make him understand. She had to make him come back. But as she was about to dial, her phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. He's mine. You can't escape me. If you try, I'll destroy everyone you love, starting with him. Bola's blood turned to ice. The spiritual husband was watching. He knew about Mrs. Adhethe. He knew about the plan. And he was ready to fight back. Solomon was drunk when Bola finally reached him. She had called Cunny, begging him to put Solomon on the phone, and when he finally answered, his voice was slurred and bitter. The world became a blur of pain and chaos. Solomon caught Bola as she collapsed. No, 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 he shouted, looking desperately at Mrs. Adhethe. What do we do? Mrs. Adhethe moved with swift purpose, opening the clay pot and spreading its contents, a dark mud-like substance, around Bola's prone body in a circle. The elderly woman in white began to chant in a language that sounded ancient, primordial, like the first words ever spoken. The spiritual husband is trying her womb, Mrs. Adhethe explained rapidly as she worked. It's a spirit child, born from a spiritual union. He can take it back whenever he wants, but doing so will kill her in the process. Then stop him. Solomon roared, cradling Bola's trembling body. Her face had gone deathly pale, her breath coming in short, agonized gasps. "I'm trying," Mrs. Adhethi said grimly. "But understand this, to save her life, we must go to the source. We must go to the lagoon where the original covenant was made. That's the only place where it can be properly broken. And we must do it tonight, before the child is fully taken." Solomon didn't hesitate. "Then let's go. Now." "It's not that simple," the elderly woman spoke for the first time, her voice surprisingly strong. "The lagoon is in Ape, almost 2 hours from here. And the spiritual husband will fight us every step of the way. He knows what we're planning." As if to confirm her words, a sudden wind tore through the apartment, shattering windows and sending furniture flying. The spiritual husband's form grew larger, more solid, his rage palpable in the air. "You cannot take her from me," he bellowed. "I have loved her since before she drew breath. I protected her, provided for her, kept her safe from every danger. What has he done?" He pointed at Solomon with contempt. "He's been here for 3 years. I've been here for 30. She is mine by right of first claim. You're killing her." Solomon shouted back, his own fury rising to match the spiritual husband's. "If you love her so much, why are you doing this?" "Because love is not always gentle," the spiritual husband replied, his voice dropping to something almost sad. "Sometimes love is possession. Sometimes love is absolute. I cannot exist without her, and she cannot be complete without me. We are bound across lifetimes, across realms. Your mortal love is a candle flame compared to the eternal fire of our union." Bala stirred in Solomon's arms, her eyes fluttering open. "Stop," she whispered weakly. "Please, both of you stop." Everyone in the room turned to look at her. Even the wind seemed to pause. "I'm tired of being fought over," she continued, each word clearly causing her pain. "I'm tired of being a prize, a possession, something to be claimed. I'm a human being. I have my own will, my own desires, my own choice." She looked at the spiritual husband, her gaze unwavering despite her weakness. "You say you love me, but love doesn't trap. Love doesn't control. Love doesn't take away choice." The spiritual husband's form flickered, something like uncertainty crossing his features. "Bala, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she interrupted, her voice gaining strength. "You're lonely. You've been bound to this covenant just as much as I have, maybe more. You didn't choose this either, did you? You were assigned to protect me, to be my guardian, and somewhere along the way, that duty became obsession." The room fell silent. The spiritual husband didn't respond, but his form seemed to waver, becoming less solid. "We're going to the lagoon," Bala said, struggling to sit up. Solomon supported her, his arms wrapped protectively around her. "We're going to end this, one way or another. You can fight us, and maybe you'll win. Maybe you'll drag me into the spirit realm with you. But is that really what you want? A bride who's there against her will? A wife who looks at you with fear and resentment instead of love?" "I want you," the spiritual husband said simply, and for the first time, he sounded vulnerable. "That's all I've ever wanted." "Then let me go," Bala whispered. "If you truly love me, give me the chance to choose. Come to the lagoon. Face the covenant honestly. And let's end this the right way." The spiritual husband stared at her for a long moment, then his form began to fade. But before he disappeared completely, his voice echoed through the room, "I will be waiting at the lagoon. But know this, Bala, if you choose him, if you reject our covenant, there will be consequences. The river does not give gifts without a price. What your mother promised, what was sealed in your blood, cannot simply be erased. Someone will have to pay." And then he was gone, leaving behind only the broken windows and an ominous feeling of dread. Mrs. Adhethi immediately began tending to Bala's wounds. The bleeding had slowed but not stopped. "We need to move quickly," she said. "The child is still there, but it's weakening. And as it weakens, so does Bala." They rushed to Mrs. Adhethi's car, a sturdy old Mercedes that had seen better days. The elderly woman climbed into the passenger seat, still muttering prayers under her breath. Solomon sat in the back with Bala, holding her close, trying to keep her warm as shock began to set in. The drive to Ape was nightmarish. The road seemed to stretch endlessly before them, and several times, supernatural obstacles appeared in their path. A tree that fell across the road just as they approached, forcing Mrs. Adhethi to swerve wildly, a sudden fog that descended so thick they could barely see a meter ahead, a flock of black birds that slammed into the windshield, cracking the glass. But Mrs. Adhethi drove with the determination of someone who had faced such obstacles before. The elderly woman's prayers seemed to clear the path just enough for them to continue forward. In the back seat, Bala drifted in and out of consciousness. During one of her lucid moments, she grabbed Solomon's hand and squeezed it tight. "If something happens to me..." "Don't talk like that," Solomon interrupted, his voice breaking. "What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? Would you like to see the next part? Do well to let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories.